Welcome to the deep dive. So, we've pulled together a really practical stack of sources today. All of them are just laser focused on one thing: how to turn your English communication into a real tool for confidence.
Exactly. And, you probably have the hard skills, the education, the experience, all that's there.
Right, but there's this core thesis that runs through all the material, and it can be a little tough to hear.
It is, but it's vital. And it's that your technical skills might get you in the door, but it's your communication that really decides if you're accepted, if you're respected, once you're in that room.
And if you can't express yourself with confidence, you risk being underestimated.
Or just overlooked completely. The sources are really clear on that.
It's a tough reality. So our mission today in this deep dive, it's not about grammar or, losing your accent. It's purely about the actionable stuff, the habits you can train to build a confident voice.
And the sources acknowledge that anxiety people feel. I mean, it's a huge thing. But
Yeah.
the solution they offer is, well, it's almost mechanical. They say, forget feeling confident first.
Just train the habits.
Just train the habits. Confidence comes later as a result of that preparation.
Okay, let's get into that then, the idea of preparation. Because I think most of us, when we see a fluent speaker, we just assume they're improvising everything.
100%. Yeah. We think they're just pulling these brilliant sentences out of thin air. That's the goal we're all shooting for.
But this is where the source material just flips the script. It says, the most confident, the most fluent communicators, they're not improvising everything, not even close.
In fact, the research points to something like, 70% of what they say being prepared, practiced, polished.
70%. So that's the core idea, the 70% rule. It's about building a scaffold for your conversations so you're not starting from scratch every single time.
Right. And by doing that, you're getting rid of the cognitive load. The sources say it removes something like 80% of the anxiety. You're not scrambling for words anymore. You're choosing a tool you already have.
Yeah. Okay, but hold on. My first thought, and probably what you're thinking right now, is doesn't that make you sound robotic? Like you're reading from a script.
That's the key question, right? It's all in how you apply it.
Yeah.
You're not preparing the content, the new ideas. You're preparing the frameworks, the sentences that move a conversation forward.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples.
The sources recommend having, say, 6 to 8 of these ready to go. So instead of that awkward pause, you have a line like, here's what I feel about that.
Or if you want to disagree without being, aggressive about it.
Yes. Something like, to be honest, my experience was different. And then you explain. Or the big one. I'd like to add something to that.
It lets you jump in smoothly.
Exactly. The prepared 70% is the foundation that lets your original, brilliant 30% actually shine.
I love that. So let's apply this idea to probably the most common moment of panic for people, the introduction. Tell me about yourself.
Oh, yeah. The moment everyone freezes.
Mm-hmm.
And they just end up listing their last 2 jobs.
Total classic error. But the sources have this really elegant fix for it. They call it the SFF framework.
Story, focus,
Yeah.
future. It forces you to tell a narrative, not just list bullet points.
So let's break that down. First is S for story. This is your background, who you are, your journey.
Then you hit them with F for focus. What are you doing right now? What's the project? The goal for this quarter? It makes you relevant.
And then the last F is future. This is the part people always forget. Where are you going? What's the big ambition?
Yeah, without that last part, people are left wondering, what's your point? What drives you?
So instead of saying, I'm Jane, I'm in marketing, so flat,
So flat.
you'd use SFF, and it sounds more like, well, I actually started in data analysis story, but right now my main focus is launching our new product line in Europe. Focus. My goal is to eventually lead a team that specializes in that kind of data-driven global launch future.
See, that the difference is huge. It's structure.
Hmm.
And structure communicates competence before they even process the words you're using.
Okay, brilliant. Now let's move away from the words themselves and talk about delivery. Because the sources are clear. You can have perfect English, but if your tone is flat, you still sound unsure.
This is so critical. Professional English, when it's done well, it sounds like presence. And you can kill a great idea with bad pitch.
The sources give 2 really simple pitch rules. The first one is for authority, for sounding certain. And it's just drop your pitch at the end of a statement.
It sounds so simple, but think about it. A falling tone signals finality. When you say, I believe this is the right approach, and your voice goes down on approach, it's done. It's a statement.
If it goes up.
If it drifts up, it turns into a question. It sounds like you're asking for permission.
Okay, so that's rule 1. What's the second?
The second is the opposite. It's for inviting people in. For collaboration, you raise your pitch slightly.
Ah, like when you ask, what do you think about that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A slight rise signals curiosity. It feels safe. It's not an interrogation. Mastering just those two, the drop for certainty, the rise for openness, that's a huge part of sounding like a leader.
Such a subtle but powerful tool. Okay, let's talk about a mistake a lot of people make, and it's tied to word choice. The temptation to sound, well, too sophisticated.
Yes, trying to prove how good your English is by using the biggest words you know.
And you just end up sacrificing clarity. The sources have this great example, someone using a phrase like articulation of conceptual dimensions.
And they just mean idea.
Right. And the principle here, you have to burn this into your brain, is clarity is always, always greater than complexity. The goal is to be understood, not to sound smart.
And we fight that urge by realizing that the most powerful sentences are usually the simplest. The sources give this amazing side-by-side comparison.
So, on the one hand, you have this awful academic sentence. This behavior signifies a multi-layered psychological response.
I mean, you have to stop and decode that. Just mental work for the listener.
Or you can just say, this shows he's dealing with a lot internally.
And boom, everyone gets it. It's human, it's authentic. That's the switch you need to make.
So let's bring this into real-time interactions. Small talk. The place where conversations go to die. We all know it. How are you? Fine. You? Fine. And then crickets.
That silence is brutal. It feels like you failed. This is why the sources love this thing called the pivot trick.
Okay, what's the trick?
It's a way to guide the conversation out of that shallow water and into your comfort zone. Your prepared 70% territory.
2 steps.
2 steps.
Yes.
First, you acknowledge what they said. You don't just ignore it. Then step 2, you pivot. You transition to something you're actually interested in.
So if they say, oh, I've been so busy lately.
You respond, same here, it's been intense. That's step 1. Then you pivot. I've actually been using my free time to work on my English. Do you ever try to learn new things outside of work?
Oh, that's so smooth. You've taken control, you've moved to a topic where you're prepared, and you've invited them to share something meaningful.
And you're not talking about the weather anymore. And once you're there, the sources say you have to add depth. Go beyond, I liked it. You have to explain why.
Provide the reasoning, so not just, that was a good movie.
No, it's, I love that movie because the character development felt so real. You're showing your thought process. That's what makes people remember you.
Okay, final scenario. The one that causes the most anxiety. Speaking in a group. In a meeting. You've got something to say, but you're terrified of being judged or cut off.
The anxiety just multiplies in a group.
Yeah.
Everyone's watching. So the sources give 2 really practical techniques. The first is about eye contact. They call it inclusive eye contact.
And this isn't just nervously looking around the room.
No. It's a controlled, gentle glance. You look at each person for maybe half a second as you're speaking.
What does that do?
2 things. First, everyone feels included, so they're more engaged with your point. And second, and this is key, it signals to the group that you're holding the floor. It makes it way harder for someone to interrupt you. It just projects confidence.
And then when you do speak, how do you add your point without sounding like you're attacking the last speaker?
That's the second technique, the yes and structure. It's the language of collaboration.
So you listen, then you agree, then you add.
Precisely. Yes, I get what you're saying about the budget,
Hmm?
and I also think we need to account for unexpected costs. You're building, not arguing. Your input becomes valuable, not threatening.
And that's how you move from being just an observer in a meeting to being a real contributor.
And the thread that ties all of this together, all of it, is active listening. Communication isn't a performance, it's a dance. It's half speaking, half listening.
Which is funny because when you're anxious about speaking, the last thing you want to do is listen. You're just rehearsing your own lines in your head.
I know. But when you truly listen, it actually slows you down. It gives you time to choose better words. You stop overthinking your own grammar because you're focused on understanding them.
English stops being a test you have to pass.
And it becomes a connection you're trying to make. And your confidence just naturally follows.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. For you, the listener, let's recap the tools. First, the 70% prepared phrases to kill that anxiety. Then, the SFF framework for a powerful introduction.
We talked about pitch control, dropping it for certainty, raising it for openness. And the big one, always prioritizing clarity over complexity.
And for interacting in real time, you've got the pivot trick to guide conversations, inclusive eye contact, and the yes and technique for groups. These are all small trainable habits.
Which brings us to the final, really the most important message from all this material. Your voice doesn't need to be changed. It just needs to be trained. Consistently. Yeah. Intentionally. That practice is what leads to real, natural confidence.
So let's make this immediately practical for you. If we're accepting that 70% of fluent speech is prepared, I want you to think about the 3 most high-stakes situations you have coming up this week. Is it a job interview, a presentation, a networking event?
Identify those 3 moments.
And then decide on the exact 6 to 8 phrases you need to memorize this week to conquer them. What are the frameworks you need? Focus your training not just on practice, but on intentional application for those specific moments. Start there and just watch what happens.